There are moments in life when the most painful experiences are not tragedies that strike from the outside, but losses that come from within the circle of our relationships. People you thought would always be there suddenly vanish. Friends you trusted seem to drift away. Loved ones you depended on either leave you or are taken out of your life. The human heart struggles to comprehend these departures because we are wired for connection, and when those bonds are broken, it feels like something inside us has shattered. But what if there is a divine reason behind it? What if every removal is not simply abandonment, rejection, or coincidence, but the careful hand of God working for your good, pruning your path so that you can grow into who He has called you to be? The real reason why God removes people from your life is because He knows the things you cannot see. He sees the motives of hearts, the hidden intentions behind smiles, the dangers behind what looks harmless. While we look at the outward appearance, God looks at the heart. And sometimes He sees that a person who may look like a blessing in your life is actually blocking you from the next level of your destiny. Sometimes He recognizes that the ones you're clinging to will not be able to walk with you where He is taking you. If you understood the weight of your calling, you would also understand why not everyone can stay. There are seasons in life where relationships serve a purpose. Some people are scaffolding meant to help you build for a time, but not meant to remain once the structure is complete. Some are assignments placed in your life for a reason, to teach you, to sharpen you, to challenge you, and then their chapter in your story closes. The pain of their leaving doesn't mean they were evil, and it doesn't mean you failed. It means God, in His sovereignty, and knew the timing was right to shift things around for His greater plan. The same God who gives is the God who takes away, and both are acts of love, even if in the moment they feel unbearable. Think about Abraham. God told him to leave his country, his relatives, and his father's household to go to a land He would show him. That command was not just geographical, it was relational. Abraham could not fully step into the promise if he clung to the people God asked him to leave behind. Why? Because the voices around you influence the faith within you. If Abraham had stayed attached to every familiar relationship, their fears, their doubts, their idolatry, and their small visions of life would have contaminated the promise God wanted to birth in him. So the first step toward destiny required separation. And the same is true for you. God sometimes removes people not because He wants you lonely, but because He wants you purified, focused, and aligned with His will. Look at Joseph. He was betrayed by his own brothers and sold into slavery. If you pause there, you would think his story was one of tragedy. But the betrayal was the very vehicle God used to transport him into Egypt, where his destiny awaited. His brothers' cruelty removed him from the comfort of family, but it positioned him for a throne. If Joseph had remained in the embrace of those brothers, he would have missed the palace. And in the end, when he finally saw them again, he was able to declare with wisdom and forgiveness, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Sometimes God removes people not because they are evil, but because their actions, even if intended to harm, serve a divine purpose to relocate you to the place of your assignment. Many times we cry over doors God has closed, not realizing He shut them to protect us. That relationship you wanted so badly, that friendship you thought was forever, that connection you believed was your lifeline, when it ends, it feels like rejection. But what looks like rejection is often God's redirection. If that person had stayed, they may have sabotaged your future. If that relationship continued, it may have drained your faith. If that friend remained, they may have whispered doubt into your vision. God sees what conversations you never hear, what thoughts you can't perceive, and what plots are being formed in the unseen. Out of His mercy, He allows them to walk away, or He orchestrates circumstances so that they must leave, because He refuses to let your destiny be destroyed by misplaced loyalty. And here is the truth: not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Jesus Himself experienced this. At one point, He had multitudes following Him, but when His teaching became difficult, many turned away and walked no more with Him. Was He any less the Son of God because they left? No. Their departure revealed they were not truly assigned to His mission. Even within His closest circle, Judas was removed, not because Jesus didn't know who He was, but because Judas's betrayal was the trigger for the cross. Even Peter, though restored, had to be sifted for a season. If the Son of God experienced the removal of people as part of His divine mission, why would we expect our path to be any different? Sometimes God removes people from your life because He is trying to heal you from an unhealthy attachment. You prayed for Him to bless you, but you didn't realize you were making an idol out of that relationship. You place someone in the throne of your heart where only God belongs. And because He is a jealous God who loves you too much to share your worship, He allowed that person to be removed so your dependence could shift back to Him. As long as your soul clings more tightly to people than to His presence, you cannot carry the full weight of your calling. God will never compete with anyone for your heart. Other times, God removes people to test your obedience and your trust. Will you still follow Him when it hurts? Will you still believe His plan when the people you leaned on are no longer around? Will you still declare His goodness when you are misunderstood, abandoned, or betrayed? Faith is not proven in comfort, it is proven in loss. Trust is not tested when everything goes your way. It is tested when life breaks your heart. And sometimes the breaking comes through the removal of people you thought you needed most. But what you needed most was never them. It was always Him. If you are in a season where God has stripped relationships away, where people have walked out, where you find yourself standing in places you never thought you would stand alone, do not despair. The emptiness you feel is not the end, it is the preparation for fullness. The silence is not punishment, it is positioning. The removal is not destruction, it is construction. For God never subtracts without the intention to multiply. He never prunes without the desire to make you fruitful. Every person who leaves creates space for the right ones to enter. Every closed chapter sets the stage for a new one to begin. Every departure refines your faith, strengthens your character, and pulls you deeper into intimacy with the one who will never leave you nor forsake you. You may not understand now why God removed them, but one day you will look back and thank Him. You will see that if they had stayed, you would not have grown. If they had remained, you would not have stretched. If they had been by your side, you would have depended on them instead of God. Their absence created a hunger in you, a desperation, a clarity, and a focus that you never would have discovered otherwise. Sometimes the very thing that broke your heart was the thing that saved your destiny. And so the real reason why God removes people from your life is not to harm you, but to help you. Not to diminish you, but to enlarge you. Not to abandon you, but to prepare you. He removes what you think you need to give you what you truly need. He strips away the temporary so He can establish the eternal. He prunes away the counterfeit so He can plant the authentic. And if you trust Him, you will see that every removal was really an act of divine love, shaping you into the image of Christ and propelling you into the future He designed before you were even born. So do not mourn too long over what God has removed. Wipe your tears, lift your eyes, and trust His hand. The same God who authored your story is the same God who edits it, and He knows which characters can stay and which must exit. Your destiny is too great, your calling too urgent, and your assignment too significant to be weighed down by relationships that cannot handle the weight of your journey. If God removed them, it is because He knew they could not go where He is taking you. Trust the author, trust the potter, trust the shepherd. And when all is said and done, you will find that every removal was really preparation for His glory to be revealed in you and through you. When we come to the close of this message and truly reflect on the reality that God removes people from our lives for reasons far beyond our limited comprehension, we are invited to see the hand of heaven in the very places we once only saw loss. The human heart clings because we are made for love, connection, and community. It is natural to weep when someone you leaned on is gone. It is natural to ache when the voice you depended on becomes silent. It is natural to wonder if God has turned His face away when a relationship you built your world around suddenly collapses. But what feels like abandonment in the moment often reveals itself to be divine orchestration in hindsight. You may not realize it now, but the same God who allowed someone to step out of your life has also stepped closer into your life to fill the void with Himself. You may cry over who left, but heaven rejoices because your story is being aligned with eternal purpose, and the Father, who is the author and finisher of your faith, knows exactly which chapters must end in order for the greater story to unfold. Think for a moment about how many times you begged God to keep someone, yet years later you saw clearly that their presence would have crippled your future. You pleaded with tears, "Lord, don't let them go." But today you thank Him that they are no longer there, because their influence would have steered you away from your destiny. This is why the Spirit reminds us that His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts higher than our thoughts. You may interpret the removal as rejection, but God interprets it as redirection. You may label it abandonment, but God calls it alignment. You may see it as a setback, but in the eyes of heaven it was a setup for something beyond what you could imagine. And the conclusion of it all is this: if you trust God with your relationships, He will never let a single person who is essential to your calling walk away from you. If they left, they were not necessary for the next season. If they stayed, it is because God ordained their presence to strengthen, sharpen, and encourage you in the journey ahead. Do not misinterpret the pruning of God as punishment. A gardener prunes not because he is angry at the vine, but because he loves the vine enough to remove what will hinder fruitfulness. In the same way, when God removes people from your life, He is not punishing you. He is pruning you. He is cutting away what could block your growth, what could poison your spirit, what could weigh you down in the season He is preparing you for. And though the pruning hurts, the pain is temporary while the fruit is eternal. Someday you will look back and see that every person who left was part of a bigger picture, a careful trimming by the master gardener so that your life could bear much fruit for His glory. As we conclude, I want you to understand that no one who belongs in your destiny will ever be able to leave permanently. God's plan cannot be thwarted by the fickleness of human choices. Even betrayal, even abandonment, even death itself cannot destroy what God has ordained for you. Joseph's brothers thought they had destroyed his dream by selling him into slavery, yet their very act of betrayal was the vehicle God used to fulfill the dream. Judas thought his betrayal would end Jesus' mission, yet it became the very trigger for the salvation of the world. What others mean for evil, God always has the power to turn for good. If someone has left you, take heart. They were never meant to carry the weight of your destiny. If they were meant to be part of your calling, nothing could have removed them. Their absence is not a failure of God's plan, it is a fulfillment of it. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it is lonely. Yes, the nights are filled with tears and the mornings feel heavy with silence. But those tears are not wasted. The Bible tells us that God collects every tear in a bottle and not one drop falls to the ground unnoticed. Your tears are prayers. Your pain is worship. Your broken heart is the very altar upon which God is preparing to reveal His power. The stripping you feel is only making room for His glory to dwell in you in a deeper way. The loneliness you feel is creating a hunger for His presence that will sustain you when no one else can. And the absence of people you thought you needed is teaching you that you never truly needed them. You needed Him. If you could see what God is preparing, you would rejoice even in your sorrow. You would dance even in your loss. You would praise even in your pain. Because what is ahead is far greater than what is behind. The friends who left cannot compare to the divine connections God is about to bring. The relationship that ended cannot compare to the covenant God is preparing. The chapter that closed cannot compare to the new one He is writing. Every removal is an invitation to greater trust, deeper faith, and a closer walk with the one who never leaves. In this conclusion, let me remind you, God is not cruel. He does not toy with your emotions. He does not remove people arbitrarily. Every single departure, every single ending, every single goodbye has been filtered through His love. He knows what He is doing. He knows what you need. He knows what you can bear. And He knows that without this removal, you would not step into the fullness of who He created you to be. So lift your head. Stop replaying the conversations that wounded you. Stop clinging to the past as if it were your future. Stop grieving endlessly over those who have walked away. Honor the season they were in your life, bless them, release them, and move forward. Because the real reason God removed them was not to diminish you, but to advance you. And here is the final truth. Sometimes God removes people, not because they are bad, but because the season is over. Their assignment in your life is complete, and if you try to hold on to them beyond their expiration date, what was once a blessing will become a burden. Just as manna in the wilderness could not be stored overnight without spoiling, relationships that extend beyond their God-ordained time will begin to rot and bring bitterness instead of life. God, in His mercy, ends it before it poisons your soul. Trust His timing. Trust His wisdom. Trust His heart. So as we close, take courage. Do not let the enemy whisper lies into your grief, telling you that you are unlovable, unworthy, or abandoned. You are none of those things. You are chosen, set apart, and deeply loved. God has not forgotten you. He has not left you. He has only removed what could not go with you into the future He has prepared. Every removal is a setup for a divine replacement. Every goodbye is making space for a greater hello. Every loss is preparing you for a greater gain. Hold on to Him, and you will see that the removals were never the end of your story. They were the beginning of something far greater. And when you step into that future, when you walk into the room of destiny God has prepared, you will not mourn over who is missing. You will rejoice over who remains, The faithful God who carried you all along, who wrote your story with wisdom, and who never once left your side. That is the real reason why God removes people from your life. It is not rejection. It is not cruelty. It is not abandonment. It is love. A love so deep, so protective, so wise that He will even allow you to feel temporary pain so that you can walk in eternal purpose. A love that refuses to let you settle for less when He has destined you for more. A love that sees the dangers, the traps, the betrayals, the distractions, and clears them out of your way before you ever realize they were there. A love that knows who belongs in your story and who does not. A love that will never let you walk into your future weighed down by people who cannot go with you. Trust that love even when it hurts. Trust that love even when it confuses you. Trust that love even when it feels like loss. For in the end, it is not loss. It is gain. It is the Father's hand shaping, pruning, guiding, and preparing you for the fullness of the life He has destined for you. And when you finally see it, when you finally step into that destiny, you will thank Him not only for who He brought into your life, but for who He removed.